Asian illegal immigrant women ended up in the employment of Len Wah Chong, this woman who ran the 4 massage parlors with, and the patrons included these jesters. So then, not only would these jesters go and pay $40, and this isn't like Elliot Spitzer stuff. These guys paid $40, and the prostitutes only got 5.
Really?
Yes. And so, ooh.
Yeah.
This is like looking at the floor of licking the floor of a bar or something. It's just like, oh my God, so icky.
Yeah.
And they claim to be all these high, I'm this and I'm that, I'm a police, I'm an attorney, I'm a judge, all these things. And then they just do this nasty stuff. And again, when we spoke before, I do attribute some of these behaviors to the alcohol abuse.
Yeah, that's right. Do you think something else, if we talk about, because again, you come from a background in regards to being in touch with the spirit world, the spiritual world, because we've actually had programs before we elaborate a little bit about this in regards to alcohol, that you actually can become what seems to be for some people almost like possessed by this stuff as well. They get so intoxicated that it's almost like something else comes into their body and taking things over, like a demon or something. What do you think?
Sure. It could be that, or when people are drunk, they can kill. They do the most horrific things. And when you look at so many of the crimes, they are drug and alcohol related. And in the case of these older gentlemen, they're not going to be crackheads. They're not going to be using the meth or these other, drugs. They're just going to be drunks. And so when you get a bunch of drunk old men together, this is what some of them do. And some of them get off on the addiction. It's also an addiction to politics. These guys are political junkies, the game playing. You and I discussed previously how you would not become a member of a group, and that's not for you. Well, me neither. I am actually kind of a lone wolf, and I'm not a joiner. When I was a little girl, my parents were divorced, and I'd see my dad on the weekends, and he was really smart. He's since passed away from a stroke, but one of the things he did is we would read books. And imagine this. He made me read books like Robert Ardrey's Territorial Imperative, On Aggression by Conrad Lorenz, Lord of the Flies, and Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And so what Dad did with me when on our weekends, I'd be in the garden and we'd be building stuff, and we would talk about these books. And Dad taught me about pack mentality, kind of like this lemming-like behavior that we're seeing of these individuals who follow the leader at any cost. And now that they're caught, we see a failure in their system is actually what we're seeing, because their Masonic brothers can no longer protect them.
How
because
about that?
Yeah. And so what, my big ultimate question here is, what kind of group exerts so much peer pressure and so much influence that you have officers of the court and those sworn to protect and serve not only breaking the law, but committing these crimes of human trafficking, facilitating sex slavery. Now we're looking at the child sex tourism and possibly the pedophilia out of Brazil.
Yeah.
What group makes these guys think that they can do these things and their brothers are going to protect them? This is what we've got. So that means that there are jesters probably in the FBI. I think that the Erie Police Department, there's going to be such huge fallout from this, because as Rob Muscotti, the U.S. Attorney in charge of this, he told me, he said, Sandy, we're going to follow this wherever it goes. And I hope he was telling me the truth, and that it's not going to be stalled out or circumvented, because this is huge. This is absolutely huge.
Is that a possibility, you think? Because again, I've heard that, and this is the case in Britain as well, as Martin Short, that was the name I was going to mention in the first hour before the entire name. He brought out this idea that a lot of judges and attorneys and whatnot are also members of various Masonic organizations and so forth. And could that be a danger here as well, that some of these people actually have allegiances that we might not know about beforehand?
Well, what we're going to talk about now is kind of woo-woo, but I think I can talk to you about this, and I think you're going to get it. I think we're seeing an evolution in human consciousness here. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that this ADD phenomenon, I've been diagnosed with that, and that's probably one of the things that makes me so successful in my work, is because my brain is like a centrifuge with all these different levels. It's like a frog in the blender, but the frog lives. My brain, I drink tons of coffee. I mean, I have ADD very bad, and my brain frequency was measured, but I clock higher. Okay, it's like a CPU. And some of us are clocking higher and faster because our consciousness is evolving. And I think what we're seeing is the shakeout of that, which is not part of this evolution. That these individuals don't fit in. They have this archaic animalistic mindset of what's mine is mine and what is yours is mine, in terms of territorialism. I want this land. I'm going to take it. I'm going to kill you if it's your land. I don't care. These older jesters wanting sex with these illegal alien prostitutes and girls in Brazil. That's not healthy, and I believe that is not conducive to the evolution of human consciousness, and it's just something that has to go away.
Do you also feel then that this information wants to get out, in that sense that it's time for a lot of these the old structures and old systems to crumble and fall apart, because it's not how should I put it, no longer in the moral correct line where we need to be going at this point, and the old mindset, as you're talking about here, of territorialism and have been a part of human society for such a long time now. Many, how long can we go back? Like 2 millennia now, right? 2,000 years, if not even more. But something else is going on here now then. And what do you think that means? Do you think that we will go to a more peaceful society eventually, but during this time when all this dirt is coming to the surface, it's going to actually look more ugly in a way, at the beginning at least? What do you think?
Exactly. You are exactly right. And when we talk about the evolution of human consciousness and psychic ability and intuition, because I am an intuitive, this has been effortless in a great way, almost as if it was meant to happen. I consider this a gift. And I don't make, last year I made $800 from doing this. I don't make much money doing this. And hopefully my book will sell when I get my narrative done. I hope it will sell greatly, because these behaviors that are not healthy, that are so dysfunctional, are not part of our evolution. And when we talk about these things, these gifts, these extrasensory perceptions, again, I have a background in advanced electronics and physics, and I believe anything woo-woo and paranormal can be explained in terms of frequency, polarity, vibration, and magnetics. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that we exist. It doesn't exist.
That's right.
And so if we're clocking to higher frequencies, of course, our brains are going to be different with the evolution of the internet and you and I talking and reaching now a global audience to help raise the consciousness of these issues. I think that we're doing a lot to help heal these dysfunctional behaviors. And hopefully, as I said, through Judge Till's apparently being forced to consider the alcohol rehab and the testing and things, people with these challenges can heal. And I wrote on my blog how much compassion I have for him. And I wrote, he can be like a phoenix rising from the ashes, encouraging these other Masons, who are doing things that are contrary to their nature and to their vows, that they can come together and clean things up. I believe the basic tenets of Masonry are great. Who can argue against brotherly love, and making good men better? I think that's fabulous. But let's keep to that. and not become sidetracked and turn into drunken political junkies who are doing this kind of crap.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And again, I was just reminded here quickly about the another article that was from the Daily Mail the other day by a writer called David Jones, who also wrote about, especially I think in Leeds, but again he also talked about child torture basically, and kind of an investigation into everything from sexual humiliation to violence against children, and that this is the type of mentality that just the cycle of abuse that I mentioned before, that this actually keeps on going, and so a lot of these kids, when they're younger, they're being drawn into this, if you will. They're being subjected to violent or even sexual acts, and in one sense, that's potentially what is just passing on down the line. And what is needed at this point is, of course, to begin to break this cycle. Begin to step in and do healing at a proper point, so it isn't just continued. And I say that is a big part of this, and which means, of course, that we have to recognize it and have to look at it. And it's very ugly, and many people are they're turned off by it, obviously, and they don't want to look at it. But that's actually also part of the problem. What do you think, Sandy?
Right. Well, number one, yes, this story has been subject to a huge media blackout, other than the Buffalo News, and maybe an article or two in the New York Times, and that's it. This is the greatest story never told. It's also interesting that you are addressing the abuse issues, because as we have the cultural evolutions, what we may also be seeing are cultural clashes here. But I write so passionately, and I have been at this for so long, and it has had a toll on me. I will share with you that I was abused as a child by a half-breed mom who liked to get drunk and beat me.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And so, and then I became an alcoholic and all this other stuff. But you know what? I have hope, because I've broken the cycle. My kids love me. Oh my gosh. I'm a great mom, and I'm working very hard to be balanced and healthy as things are happening around me. And mostly, when it comes to the spiritual aspect of my work, my greatest healing and love and passion does come from my spiritual practice, because that is where the healing comes from. And if we do talk about Masonry and Shrinedom and these other things, there is an opportunity for spiritual evolution here, and I really hope that happens. For example, when I found out that the fishing tour operator had been indicted in Brazil, I didn't do the happy dance. There's times, I'll tell you, when I talk to somebody on the phone or something happens, I'll get up and I'll actually do the happy dance.
Try to break it.
Yeah. Just woohoo, something really great happened.
Sure.
But this time I did not. I grabbed my sage and my eagle feather fan, and I smudged, because this is a point of real reality here. This is a game changer. And for me to continue in my work as I have the past 3 years in this, believe it or not, and I know it's weird to be talking about journalists about their journalism and talking about intuition and spirituality, but that's how I do it.
Well, I think it's a great topic to add into it, because again, I think that this is the reality of how things are, and the more people who recognize this and start accessing the knowledge of the spiritual reality of our world, is actually going to do a much better job at it. And again, I think that the reason why we have such an unbalanced world, at least in the Western world, and a lot of the influences the Western world have given to other parts of the world at this point, is because we've been too only one-sided, if you know what I mean. We've turned away from the spiritual aspects and become too scientific, and I think that actually in the long run help to in one way generate that type of mentality. I'm generalizing, obviously, but I think you understand what I'm saying here.
Oh, sure. Like with the remote viewing thing, the big push is for scientific validation and all of these things, and to quantify and create metrics to develop something that I think is a natural human ability. Yeah. The Native American chiefs and medicine people have been using the gift of farsight for